And now, the most reasonable talk show host from Sop Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
Well, good evening and welcome to Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan with you tonight, and we're going to talk some about what's latest in the news. If you'll recall, last week we talked at length about the prostitutes at the Pentagon. And this story, or this opinion piece written by Arianna Huffington, is troubling because there has been virtually no follow-up or coverage of this by anybody on any network at any time. To refresh your memory, for those of you who may not have been with us, the New York Times did an investigative piece, investigation, and wrote a story about a number of retired military people that the Pentagon had been courting and giving private briefings and flying in private aircraft to Iraq to have them spin up the Pentagon's side of things. And I don't know if this happened to you. It certainly happened to me when I was watching CNN I rarely watch Fox unless I'm just in the mood for a chuckle. In watching all of that, I, like you all, saw the coverage of the military people, and I was impressed. I mean, here's people with all kinds of awards and spaghetti, and they have their hats on and everything, and they looked very impressive. And so I thought naively, well, these people are neutral. I mean, my goodness, they wouldn't disgrace the uniform of the United States military like a bunch of cheap prostitutes. They couldn't do that. That's almost traitorous to do that to the uniform of our United States military services. But in fact, that's what many of them did. They spun up one-sided, biased, unfair coverage that the Pentagon wanted to spin out. Now, what's happened as a result of that? Well, the Pentagon says they're not going to give them any more private briefings for the time being. That's it. Nobody has come forward and said, this is singly the most disgraceful thing that's happened to the Pentagon and to our men and women in uniform. Now, the fact that people aren't talking about it and ignoring it is the best indication of its impact, because on talk radio and on the networks in which these military people appeared as neutral, objective, fair, etc., they were none of those things. And it was a demoralizing and discouraging revelation that we were all duped by our men in uniform, and duped we all were. Some of the non-mainstream media is covering it, but the mainstream media is not going to cover it. So what's in the news? What's the most important thing? What's the kind of thing that's riveting the country's attention? The most masterful creation of the non-issue, Obama's preacher, who is a little wacky, admitted. But a lot of preachers are a little wacky. It just depends on which Sunday you catch them. And you can't storm out of church because that Sunday they said something that you thought was a little nutty. That's just not the way it's done. This was a man that married Obama and baptized his children. We've all had people say things that we don't agree with. A lot of times people say things just embarrass us, whether it's family members or whatever, let alone a close friend. The long and short of it is that we have become totally sidetracked on the real substantive issues that are out there because of Obama's preacher. And of course, the right-wing whippers-uppers of animosity and hate are having a field day with little blips of one sermon or two sermons or something that he said that is just patently ridiculous. Now, this is a little bit disturbing. Here's what our ally running Afghanistan says. Hamid Karzai, the Afghan president, has called on British and American troops to stop arresting Taliban insurgents in Afghanistan, saying that their operations undermined his government's authority and were counterproductive. The stinging attack, made in an interview with the New York Times published yesterday, is the latest in a series of rows between Western governments with troops in Afghanistan and the elected leader of the country. Western diplomats expressed surprise at the Afghan leader's criticism, and the Foreign Office played down the row yesterday. We fully support the Afghan government and continue to work with it, President Karzai, and the international community, in the interests of the Afghan people and the long-term peace and stability of Afghanistan, said a spokesman. If you will recall, we're having to send 3,200 Marines there because we can't get any of our purported allies to commit any additional troops to Afghanistan. In the meantime, the president of the country says that our pursuit of the Taliban is really counterproductive and not what he needs to have done there. Our State Department spins it up as just fine. Everything is just dandy. We're going along and fully support the government of the guy we put in place there. In Afghanistan, it's a little confusing, would you say, about the Taliban? But in Iraq, it's now even more confusing. So the Bush administration and Gates and others, in making a case for just throwing a few bombs in Iran, are saying that Iranians, this was really interesting on the news, they said the Iranians are not actually fueling and sponsoring terrorists. They're not actually doing that. But they are assisting and providing some armaments for the insurgents, and the insurgents are the ones that we're fighting in Iraq. Now, the insurgents are the ones that McCain couldn't get straight who they were. He thought it was Al-Qaeda. And he was right there, as you will recall, walking around, talking to all of the commanders in the field, and he got it real confused. He couldn't figure out who actually was the enemy. And he made references to Al-Qaeda being trained in Iran, which, of course, was just ludicrous. It was not even close to right, and everybody that was around there knew that there was no basis for that. In fact, all we have is some people in our military claiming they have some evidence of some Iranians providing some support for some person that we say is aiding and abetting people that we are fighting in Iraq. Well, on that basis, that's a sufficient basis then to start to invade another sovereign nation and to bomb it, according to the Bush administration. And so we're sending, another carrier over there, and we're getting all beefed up, ready. Because Bush wants to take one last swing at it while he's still president, because he sees the mamby-pamby Democrats coming along who don't have his raw guts, his courage, and his gut feel for what needs to be done. He's got the gut feel. There's no question about it. He's got one of the best gut feels that you can get in your gut. And he's the only person that really knows it, and the only person really understands it. And on top of everything, he's divinely led, according to him. And that's who's going to declare war on Iran, just unilaterally, if he thinks it's necessary under the War Powers Act. And he's just going to start bombing. I mean, that's what he's going to do, because the claim is that this is going to help protect American lives. So a lot of people say, well, nobody would do that. There's no way in the world that's going to happen. It's just not, nobody would be that crazy to do that. Really? Nobody? George W. Bush? Are you kidding? Yeah, he'd do it. He can hardly wait to do it. All right, that's it for this week Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan, your host, and with you every Wednesday night at 7. This program's rebroadcast on Friday. Check your listings for it, and we'll see you next week at this time.